What's good, my peoples? It's your boy Solace. I want to do this quick video on quarks, leptons, and basically the beginnings of life, what scientists will call the Big Bang. I want to break that down so everybody can get an understanding of what that is. So, what you have is you basically got quarks. You got the up quark, you got the down quark. This is positive. Then you have leptons, which is electrons, muons, and a whole bunch of other shit. That's the negative. When the up and down quark fuses together, that creates protons and neutrons. When protons and neutrons, which is purely positive energy, collides with electrons, you get atoms. And then from there, you get everything else. This is the building blocks of life. Now, I know y'all have heard me say that before. Now, the scientists, they explain the building blocks of life as the Big Bang. And they say that basically all the particles exploded out into the world, out into space. And then they all came together, creating everything you see. So it's basically the same thing I'm saying. Now, you have to understand the Big Bang is basically when protons, neutrons, atoms, all of these things started to collide with each other. All the particles, more than just that. You know, they collide together, they create other particles, new ones. And then those collide with other new ones and create more things. And this is how you get the planets and man and everything you got. So this would be the Big Bang, and this would be the creation of life. Now, to understand who's the force behind these forces manipulating them, this would be God. But scientists don't believe in God, so they just look at it from a science perspective. They're trying to find the force behind the quarks and the leptons. The force that brought those forces into being, because that's where everything started. So it's almost like a person saying, well, who caused the Big Bang? If the Big Bang is what started life, then who caused the Big Bang? So this is the question that scientists have, as well as regular man. Regular man would have it as, who created the Big Bang? Scientists would have it as, what's the force behind the quarks and the leptons? So now we have that understanding. Now they have scientists working at this place called Cern in Switzerland. Now, back in 1954, they created this hadrop collider. It's basically the most expensive machine in the world. Some of y'all may have seen it on the History Channel before. It's a 17-mile long tunnel that's in Switzerland. It's 300 feet deep beneath the surface of the earth. And inside the tunnels is stored at a temperature that's basically the equivalent to space. Basically freezing fucking cold. So now they've been working on this thing since 1954. What they're doing with this thing is they're trying to because they created protons, neutrons, electrons. They have all of this. So now they have this machine, and what they're doing with the machine is colliding these properties or elements into each other, trying to recreate the Big Bang. Basically, if they can do that, they can create a whole universe like what we live in within that tunnel, being able to see how everything came into being physically and watch it on their own. Basically being God, watching it, and boom. So this is what they're doing. Now, they haven't succeeded yet as far as getting everything. Well, this is what they say. They haven't succeeded as getting everything to collide and basically to create in the world. And that's basically their whole purpose. They want to create the universe again in a 17-mile long tunnel, and basically see life develop inside the planets inside that tunnel, and so on and so forth. Now, the problem with this is they don't understand that what we look at when we're in Earth and we're looking at the sun and the moon and up in space, this is the innards of a being, a person. See, they cannot grasp that. All they can grasp is, oh, it's a whole bunch of solar systems. There's many suns and many solar systems. They don't understand every solar system that they see is the immune system of a person. It's levels. So you have to understand how big that person is if their innards is the solar system. So it's just like the cells that are alive in your body. When they're looking at their surroundings inside your body, it looks equivalent to how we looking from Earth up in space. It's the same thing. That's why they say up above, so below. If you want to know about life, it's within you. If scientists can understand their body, the inside, then they can understand what they're looking at. So now, you got to look at it like this. The sun is basically, and remember, we're inside of the being. So now, if you're inside the being, let's say you're somewhere around the waist looking up. So now you're in Earth looking up. You see the sun. That would be the being's brain. And so on and so forth. So the way they have outer space with the sun in the middle and the planets floating around, it's not necessarily in that manner. It could be the big ass sun. It could be in the manner of a man's body. How the brain is at top, and then you have all the other organs, and these other organs are the planets. So the same way you look in space and you see planets, those are nothing more than the organs of that being. Just like you have heart, liver, kidney, these are the organs of you. But to the cells in your body, these are planets to them. So it's all the same thing. So now you have to understand, when they fooling around trying to recreate the Big Bang, because their thing is they would like to send gravitons into a black hole. Therefore, they can see what's on the other end of a black hole. But they don't understand that the other end of a black hole is basically the exit out of the body. Meaning, we're in the innards of a being. If you're sucked into a black hole, it is the equivalent of being vomited out of someone's body into a world that you're too small to survive in. You can't even conceive what you're seeing because everything is too big. You have to look at it from the perspective of a cell. That's why I said we have to get to a place of humility so you can understand the life that is within you, the little baby cells. They are too small to even see with the eye. They're smaller than that. So you figure something that small inside you, imagine how your innards look to it. And it's the same as how we're little small dots inside the innards of this being. So now when they try to create this little stupid tunnel thing that they got going, and they do succeed, all they're doing is damaging Earth. Now, if Earth is one of the being's organs, all you're doing is damaging the organ that you live on. So they don't understand how this goes. If you go outside of the being that you're living in, you will not be able to sustain yourself. So this is a black hole is the equivalent of the being's nostrils, the mouth. Any hole that's in the body, the anus, the pee hole. Any hole that's in the body, when you see a black hole, that's what you're seeing. The exit to the being that you're in. And this is why nothing survives the exit, because you're coming into a bigger world that you are not built or big enough to sustain. You're less than the particles in the air. So how do you sustain in that world where the particles that make up oxygen are bigger than you? So this is why no one goes into a black hole and survives. It's not that you can't survive, it's that it's too powerful, because you got to understand this is a level thing. This is a being thing. Like I said, you dying, you ascending to a new form of life in a new world. Meaning you leave Earth, you will become a planet. I know we see a planet as an object, but it's not. It's a living being. It looks how it looks to you because you're inside of it. Just like a baby is inside of a woman. When the baby comes out the woman, then the baby can see what the woman looks like. And the baby becomes an adult like the woman. This is what's going to happen when you die and leave Earth. You will become an earth, meaning you will become an organ inside the being. But Earth is a living being, just like the cells in you are living beings, people. Same thing. So you'll be a planet, but that is a person. That is an organ in a person, just like you're an organism on Earth. So it's the same process. So you have to understand the ascent. Then you go from being an organ to becoming the being you are in. So you have to understand this solar system that we live in is the immune system of a being. The galaxy that we are in, that is the immune system of a being. That is the innards of a being. The universe, meaning this whole universe that all galaxies are in this universe, that all of that is the innards of another being. So you have beings within beings within beings within beings, and you're trying to ascend in life through that. They're rushing that. And this is what the problem is going to be. So this is why when I break down to y'all the sperm, the spirit, the spine, how you're ascending into different lives, and I'm showing you how the sperm cell, that energy is in everything, so that you can get an understanding of what's what. See, this is the process of ascending back to God. So you can say the innards of the universe. The universe is the innards of a being. There's many other universes. We just don't have the equipment to see them. So this is how many other beings there are on that scale of life, that huge. Just like when you see many different planets in this universe, not just in our galaxy or our solar system, but all the planets all within the universe. These are all beings. You just can't see them because you're in one. Same process on every level. It's a bunch of different solar systems. These are all the innards of different beings. So I know you think, well, damn, if I'm a planet, then what kind of life is that for a planet? Well, it's a bunch of planets. They interact with each other, but you just don't see that because you're inside of one. There's a bunch of different solar systems. That's a bunch of different beings. And they're all interacting with each other. But the space that they live in is too big. Just like the space that you live in is too big for the cells in your body. The cells in your body cannot live in this earth that we live in. They're too small. So it's the same process. So we have to fully understand that. Now, this is the thing that always happens throughout life of man. Man gets civilized and then he begins to want to know that question. He begins to understand energy and electricity and energy and quarks and leptons and whatever wording they chose to use in those times. Now we talking about ancient Chem, Assyria, all these places. Same thing happened. What you seeing happen now. They get to understand quarks, leptons, and they have that question. What's the force behind this? Then they start to try and manipulate that process or mimic that process in some kind of way. And this is where you get that blank in time in AD and BC. From this, playing around with energy, trying to play God, not realizing that you're inside another being. And then we destroy ourselves. Because if they get that thing to work, it's gonna basically just completely consume Earth. It's gonna create a black hole and consume Earth, and we're in Earth. So you already know how that's gonna work. But it ain't gonna destroy the being that Earth is in. Just like you get kidney failure. You still be alive, you just lose that kidney. And those cells that live on that kidney, they fuck themselves by not keeping up with the kidney. So we gotta understand where we going. All ancient civilizations got to this point that we at, where they start to play with these energies and these protons and electrons and neutrons. The ancient Egyptians, they was doing it with the pyramids. This is why the pyramids, they say the pyramids is, basically the pyramids is dead from whatever it was, is dead. But we got to understand the pyramids go way back before the ancient Kemetic people. They just occupied that shit. But it was there already. So we got to understand that shit was used in a way like Cern is using those tunnels for whatever they were trying to do. Now, they may have been trying to use it for time travel in some way, or being the soul, or any, and you could do so many stupid things. And it, put it like this, the knowledge is on whoever has it, the kind of mind they got. So the CERN scientists, they trying to recreate a universe within this earth so they can look at people on a smaller scale develop. I don't know exactly what the ancient Egyptians' mindset were. All I know is that they were fucking with the energy. And this is how mankind, this is how when you always hear the end of days and the end of the world, this is what they're talking about. So whenever you hear that in any ancient book or anything, the end of the world, the end of days, that's what they're talking about. When men get to a point where they begin to understand forces and energy and they start to play with that, then they destroy themselves. And then everything has to start over. And this is where we at. Now it's interesting how in front of the CERN spot that's in Switzerland, they got a statue of Shiva. Now, I know that these motherfuckers now, I know they know. Everything I've been telling y'all, I know for a fact that they know this already. I just don't know why. I don't know why they not saying it in the way I'm saying it. But they know it because they put a statue of Shiva there. And a lot of people don't understand, in Hinduism, Shiva is a representation of the Big Bang, basically. Shiva is one of three gods. Shiva is the destroyer, but when Shiva destroys, see, it's a circle. So when Shiva destroys, then Brahma kicks in, and this is the creator. So when the Big Bang happened, that was the destruction, and then Brahma forces came into work and brought everything back together. So this is how Hinduism speaks of the Big Bang, or quarks and leptons, in that manner. So Shiva will be one of the forces, maybe up and down quark or whatever. And this is how they broke it down. So they put a statue of Shiva in front of the CERN, meaning they know that that shit is going to destroy shit. Because whenever you hear the dance of Shiva, that's talking about that energy, talking about protons, neutrons, electrons colliding with each other, creating atoms. That's the dance of Shiva. Three becoming one. That's where you get that lucky three from, that. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Everything stems from that three. And then you get more threes like that. Man, woman, and child. So it all goes up and up the ladder, but it's all the same. Up above as below. Small scale, bigger scale, it's always going to be the same thing. We got to understand that's where we about to be at right now. At that times, where men, we about to destroy ourselves like the people of ancient times have all done. And next thing you know, they're going to be counting our time backwards. And they're going to be speaking of us as gods, not realizing that we fucked up. That's why I'll be quick to say, don't be so quick to jump into the books or think that the ancients knew what they were doing. Because if they knew what they were doing, we wouldn't be at this place now trying to figure out. The reason you're trying to figure out is because men destroyed themselves. And then men have to start over from scratch. So don't think ancients knew what they were doing. They didn't. That's why we're at this blank spot trying to figure out things. And we're about to do the same things that they've done. Mind you, I'm sitting here telling y'all, I'm breaking it down simple so everybody could grasp. It go back to the halls of Amenti and the 32 elders. You're going to always get somebody to come along and break down shit to you and let you know where you're going. Men just don't never listen. So we got to get to a level to really understand what I'm telling y'all. It's not about nobody looking bad or this person being smarter than that person. That's why I say I don't care what you believe in. You can believe in Jesus, you can believe in whatever you want. Because what I'm telling you ain't got nothing to do with none of that. That's just man-made up stuff that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. This here is that universal knowledge, and this is what's going to always transpire. Because if you understand the universe, then you understand everything is a circuit. Meaning it just keeps continuing. It discontinues and keeps continuing. It doesn't stop. So once you understand that, then you understand what happened before is going to happen again, and it's going to always happen like that. Until men get it right. And the only time you're going to see when men got it right is when you see men get to a point where they're keeping count of time, and you actually hear men say it's the year 1,004,027. When you get to a point of time like that, then you know men have been on a good accord for a long time. But being as though we know the earth is 6 billion years old and it's 2016, then we know men have fucked up so many times throughout these 6 billion years.